welcome to another beautiful package of your program of choice, Galaxy Line. I am Segun Adiri, your regular host, and I'm so glad to have you seated out there. On the show today is an environment specialist who is so publicity shy as to not to want much said about him by way of introduction. Suffice it to say, however, that he is a great achiever in his own right. Aside from his current local portfolio of spokesperson of the Association of Waste Managers of Nigeria, AWAM, he belongs to a good number of international bodies, professional bodies that is. These include International Collaborative Working Group on Solid Waste Management in Low and Middle Income Countries, and the International Solid Waste Association, ISWA, which is the umbrella body for all waste management practitioners worldwide. He's also a member of the International Partnership for Expanding Waste Management Services of Local Authorities, an initiative of the United Nations Center for Regional Development. Please welcome my guest on the show today, Olugbenga Adebola. He is the spokesperson for the Association of Waste Managers of Nigeria, AWAM. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Well, we'll take a short break at this point. We'll be right back after this time out. Stay with us. Yes, this is your personality interview program of choice, Galaxy Line, and my guest today is an environmentalist, Olugbenga Adebola of the Association of Waste Managers of Nigeria. The personality we suggest to you right away, that discussion today will center around the environment, and of course, with particular reference to the Lagos situation, which has posed quite a challenge for quite some time now. And how do I start? There is this allegation, I'll start on a firing note.
No problem.
This allegation that members of your group, AWAM, are actually sabotaging the Lagos state government in their new Cleaner Lagos initiative. And that act of sabotage is actually what has resulted in the refuse pile-up that we find in Lagos. How do you react to this?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Aderi, and I want to say that it's a pleasure being on your program. You've really contributed your quota to the development of journalism, especially broadcast journalism in Nigeria, and it is indeed a pleasure to be on this set with you this morning.
Thank you so much.
Having said that, to answer your question, or probably to throw more light on that seemingly quote-unquote allegation of sabotage by members of AWAM. Whoever that is saying that is maybe they do not have a fuller knowledge of what waste management in Lagos is all about. I really do not know, I don't know why a PSP operator will want to sabotage any effort of government. Don't forget that we were coming right from the time of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He actually inherited a very dirty city. In fact, there was a time Lagos was tagged as the most dirtiest city in the whole world. And it took the determination of His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the concerted effort of the PSP to clean Lagos to an enviable position.
It was a miracle, really.
It was a miracle. A lot of people were involved at the international level. And wherever we go, a lot of people will tell us, indeed, it was a miracle, just like you have said. And having cleaned Lagos, I want to tell you that it is not just cleaning. It came with a lot of accolades, a lot of awards, both locally and internationally. And this was what the PSP have done to Lagos State. I mean,
he used the PSP then?
Of course. And that was why after he left office, the PSP, the Association of Waste Managers of Nigeria, had to recognize his efforts by making him our grand patron. As it is today, for the past several years, more than 10 years or thereabout, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has actually been our grand patron. We just needed to compensate him. Because even as at then, there were pressures on him to bring in foreign companies to come and clean Lagos. And he said then that if my people cannot clean their city, then what can they do? And he encouraged us, he empowered us, he did everything he could do. And that was when we begin to have what you call dignity of labor, even within the waste management industry. So if we have cleaned Lagos to that level, how can we, it's like you have built a house and then you are now being accused of now destroying that house. Our members are not involved and they will never be involved in sabotaging the effort. What the current governor wants to do, they said they brought about a Cleaner Lagos initiative.
That's right.
And what that implies is that Lagos was clean before. They only wanted to make it cleaner. So if you want to make Lagos cleaner, then we are game for it, we are in for it. However, the way and manner by which you want to go about a Cleaner Lagos initiative is what we faulted to some extent. They are government, they can make policy. But where you have people's investment in several billions of naira in an industry involved, then you don't just look at them as a no person. They are also a critical stakeholder in that industry. And as such, we felt that the government should have called all the PSP operators to sit down with us to look at areas by which we can improve on what we have achieved. Don't forget that I told you that we have achieved a lot, even to the extent that many of us, including Loma then, were being called all over the West African sub-region to come and manage their waste. Many of the countries, even the state in Nigeria, they were coming to Lagos to learn, to understudy the model of the PSP. And even currently, as I speak with you, most of the states in Nigeria are deploying this PSP stuff, the PSP model. Even outside Nigeria, so many countries had come to understudy the model of the PSP and they are implementing it right now. So if it is a model that has worked here and people have come in to also understudy with the view of implementing it in their country, then we don't need to throw this thing, this model away.
But why do you think a government coming from the background of the Asiwaju days will all of a sudden begin to introduce what you say you are objected to? Visionscape, I think that's where you are going, really.
Yeah.
That's the company, foreign company that was brought in. And this is where the whole problem started.
Yeah,
I'm sure you agree with me.
Yeah.
Why should a government in Lagos, coming from the background that you just painted, now begin to introduce foreign bodies the way it has been done?
I think...
Can you understand that?
I really don't understand, but if I will help pretend as if I understood what happened, it may be twofold. It is either His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, was not properly briefed as to what was running, what was working, what was obtainable in Lagos. It is either he was not properly briefed or the briefing was not thorough. I think the initial mistake was that the government of the day initially thought that the PSP are just riffraff. They are what I could call, I'm sorry to say
that's the point I wanted to supply to you that I heard.
Yeah.
That you people have become incompetent. If you were competent before, you had gone to sleep.
No.
You lack the wherewithal, you lack the skill, you even lack the equipment.
No.
These were some of the factors.
Yes, those are misconceptions. The truth of the matter is, the PSP, like I told you, we have invested several billions of naira into this industry. And I want to assure the state government, assure Lagosians that we are still willing and ready to invest more. However, it wasn't as if everything was good at that time. Yes, there were some areas of challenges. And these areas of challenges were not within our own purview. We have perfected waste collection and transportation which was then a house-to-house waste collection system. PSPs were to go from house to house to the doorstep of the waste generators, and we were doing it to collect the waste. And let me tell you the advantages of this, of door-to-door waste collection. Once the waste is tackled from the doorstep of the waste generators, then it will have prevented waste going to the highway.
To the highways.
It will also prevent the waste going into the drainages, into the gutters, and to the water bodies, because it has been tackled from the doorstep of the waste generators. However, there are some challenges. We have perfected that. We will collect and transport to the disposal facility. But the disposal facilities that we had in Lagos were not enough. There's no doubt about that. Now, apart from the fact that they were not enough, the disposal facilities were being badly managed.
If they were not enough, whose responsibility is that?
That's fine. That's a good question. It tells the responsibility of the government to provide the resting place for the waste. Ours is to collect and transport and dispose. Now, the provision of the disposal facilities, the management of the disposal facilities, and what have you, are not our responsibility. Though we can also be involved if given the opportunity. It requires a huge amount of money. But as at up till now, it is still responsibility of the government until when they said they are giving it to Visionscape. And even around this period, we had sent a lot of emissaries to the government to say, look, and I've been saying this, that the sustenance, the sustenance of solid waste, effective solid waste management, the sustenance of it is the dump site. That is, the dump site is sine qua non to the sustenance of effective and efficient solid waste management. And how do I mean? If you collect waste from the doorstep of the waste generators, and you could not get to the dump site where you are supposed to dump it and go back to collect another one,
exactly,
then it will have a ripple effect on the kind of services you render. When you go, that's why before Ojota got burnt, Olusosun, and several other dump sites that we have in Lagos, even till now, you go to Solus and so many other, you go to Iwelepe, you go to Ekpe itself, you see a whole lot of trucks queuing for several days. This will have a chain reaction.
The one on Lasu Road?
The one on Lasu Road. In fact, I was on a radio program 2 days ago.
They're always creating
and people phone in to say, oh, what is happening? Your trucks are always here and there. Yes, they will always be there because they are trying to gain entrance into the disposal facility. But where they don't have access to this disposal facility, they will continue to queue until they have an access. And I also told them, and this is a fact.
Is it because the place is narrow, or the entrances are just too few?
There are so many issues. Now you see, the problem at Olusosun has actually increased, the pressure on the remaining dump site. Olusosun, before it got burnt, was receiving over 60% of the total waste generated in Lagos State on a daily basis. Excuse me. And don't forget that Lagos actually generates between 13 and 15,000 metric tons of waste on a daily basis. So if Olusosun is receiving over 60% of this, you can imagine how huge or how important Olusosun dump site was to waste management in Lagos. Now, the Olusosun got burnt, and then
they closed it down.
And it's closed down. But we believe that it got burnt because of mismanagement. It wasn't properly managed.
I was even going to ask that question. It's part of what I have for you, that how much sense does it make to you that government will wait for that place to be burnt before, concrete action will be taken?
Well, I really don't know. Honestly, I'm not a spokesperson for government, and it is this question is best reserved for government. But it baffles us too. For us as a people, and I don't want to say as a government, and I want to, it's a collective responsibility. It baffles us, and it's a pain in the neck for us to wait. And then when I say us, I mean all that is involved, all the stakeholders, to wait until that place got burnt before all we could do is just to close it down. Because that place is playing a major role in the sustenance of effective and efficient waste management in Lagos State.
What do you recommend to be done to move it completely from there and go and establish in some other new place? Because people even said such an eyesore, coming into Lagos and you are greeted, by such a huge garbage of rubbish.
I agree. I agree in total that the place was and is an eyesore. But how did it get to that level? Many of our people and many of us have also been out there in the developed world, developed countries, and so understudy how even disposal facilities are being managed. And the disposal facility of that magnitude, don't forget, that place is actually a dump site. It occurred naturally when excavation of waste was done there when they were building Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And that was when they excavated waste there. And because it was an excavation, suddenly it became a dump site. And lucky enough, because it has a very high clay deposit, the level of the deposit, the clay that it has, was serving as a buffer, a natural buffer, which we were supposed to have a liner to prevent the percolation of the leachate, which was going to pollute the underground water. But because the place has a very high level of clay, it was preventing the percolation of the leachate to an extent. And that was why there was a study even involving the World Bank and all that, which said that place can actually be converted into a landfill site, a sanitary landfill site. But all the international standard that was expected to be adhered to in managing that dump site or disposal facility were not taken into cognizance. And as such, for instance, we were supposed to be capping up the waste after disposal so that we can, because when the waste decomposes also, it generates a lot of what we call biogases. One of the biogas is methane. Another one that is potent is also carbon dioxide. These are the gases that you call the greenhouse gases. The biogas are the greenhouse gases that actually leads to climate change and all that and all that. But if it is well managed, you can actually collect those biogases, especially methane, and clean it up, and then use it to generate electricity. Or better still, you can clean it up, bottle it up for home cooking. This is done in so many countries.
Yeah.
So it is actually a resource that is not being tapped at all. A typical Nigerian.
We've talked so much about waste to wealth.
Exactly.
And nobody's doing anything about it. We just talked and talked and talked.
Unfortunately, you see, government needs to, because whatever that we do in this part of the world, government has a major responsibility. It's like a triangle where you have the government at the top and then you have other stakeholders beneath. Government has a responsibility to put in place what we call an enabling environment, to encourage investment in this area and to do so many things. For instance, when the Visionscape came in, many of us had done some level of investment in recycling. Many of the PSP that you see, many of them are also recovering waste, either to sell to recyclers and do one thing or the other. But the enabling environment is not there because it requires a huge investment. And that was why these are the huge investments that we, the PSP operators, who are the locals, have been asking the government to provide. But where government has failed to provide this enabling environment, then your investments would be minimal. And this enabling environment and the guaranteeing and all that we have been asking for was exactly what our own government gave Visionscape. Of course, maybe you are not aware, they gave them about 10 years contract agreement, which was never given to PSP operators. We have been asking for a longer year agreement so that, because you want to go to bank, the bank wants to look at, oh, this is your business. How long will it last? Is it a long-term thing? If we provide money, are we sure government is not going to boot you out within a year or two? And those are all over the world. This is what is obtainable to be able to have a. Let me tell you this: waste management is highly capital intensive. A single truck that you see on the road, which is a compactor, currently, if you want to buy a Tokumbo, is between 12 and 15 million naira, a single truck. So, and to be a PSP operator in Lagos, the minimum you are expected to have, minimum, at least is 2. But we have some of our members that have 7, 8, 9, 10, more than that. That is Tokumbo. There is a time in the lifetime of us as a PSP operator in Lagos State that we also brought in brand new trucks bought from a company in India in collaboration with the state government there, and then also working with a commercial bank. I don't want to mention because I don't want to advertise for them. We brought in over 100 brand new trucks, which were added into our fleet in Lagos State. Now what happens? What becomes of these brand new trucks? They are less than...
If you were to be put out of market.
No. I mean, they are still, some of them are still functioning,
okay,
but majority are not functioning. Why? Because it is the functionality of the dump sites which they go into. The dump sites are not well managed. If you collect your waste from the doorstep of the waste generators, and then you are going to go into the dump site, and then a brand new truck goes into the dump site, and because the dump sites are not well managed, suddenly the brand new truck got stuck in the mud, in whatever, and they had to pull it out. In the course of pulling it out, they caused a lot of damages, and that's why a lot of people will see a compactor truck on the roads of Lagos and say, look at what kind of a truck is this?
Rickety.
Rickety. It is the functionality of the dump site that they go into.
It's one of the factors they're raising against your people, that your trucks are old and you are not maintaining them, and they are not productive anymore. So let's get some other people who can do the funding properly and then get all that is needed.
The issue is this: there's this adage in Yoruba, and I'll try to translate it in English, that whatever that happens to the old wife is still coming to happen to the new wife. Whatever that haunted the old wife or the first wife is going to haunt the second wife. I just told you that not too long ago we brought in over 100 brand new trucks. But because of the dump site that they are entering, it has turned them into rickety. If it is the same dump site that this whatever few trucks that they are brought, because I would say few trucks, and I don't want to join issues with Vision Scale. Really, we have nothing to do with them, because anyway, I'll come back to that. If those new trucks will also go into those dump sites, I give them only 6 months.
Their own.
Same brand new trucks that, because I'm telling you, we are a classical example. Look, if you are an Hausa man, if you give an Hausa man a medicine to take, he will tell you, have you taken this medicine before? Did you cure yourself? So I'm telling you, I'm using myself or the PSP as a practical example that the new truck that they are bringing is not new to us in Lagos. I can show you pictures of these brand new trucks that we were brought into this country, into Lagos, not too long ago. So what happened? It is the functionality of the infrastructure that is supposed to support effective and efficient solid waste management in Lagos. Those infrastructures are not there. And when we talk about the infrastructure, those are the areas of challenges that we have in Lagos, not in the area of collection and transportation. And when we talk about challenges in the area of infrastructure, we are talking about the disposal facility, be it you call it dump site or landfill site, sanitary landfill site, or engineered landfill site, or what you call even material recovery facility, MRF, where the waste are taken to and then they are sorted out, because waste itself is not a waste unless you waste it. The waste, your waste, it might not be a waste to me. Yeah. What is a waste to you might be a raw material
for you,
for me to convert into something else and then make money out of it. That is the coinage of waste to wealth. So this MRF, material recovery facility, and we have one in Lagos, lucky enough, at Igondo, is expected when you bring the waste. Gone are the days when you just bring the waste and begin to bury them like we do at Olushoso and so many of the dump sites. Nobody bury waste right these days. You take the waste to a material recovery facility and the waste are sorted out into different waste components, at least 3 major components, where we have the compostables, we have the combustibles, and then we have the recyclables. The recyclables go for the recycling, and then you have them to produce new materials, be it plastic, aluminum, paper, whatever. Then the compostables will go for composting. These are the organic fertilizer that we talked about. Then the combustibles will go for combustion, and not ordinary combustion. That is why we talk about waste to energy. Waste to energy happens when you combust the waste, either using pyrolysis or gasification. There are different technologies that can be used. So the waste, like Olusosun, I just told you, even the biogas that caught fire at Olusosun could have been tapped, clean it up to generate electricity.
I was going to ask you, what do you expect Olusosun to be turned into or to become?
For now, indeed, Olusosun became something messy, terrible, and it is a shame to all of us. I don't want to put blame on, say, government or whatever, even though it is not our responsibility to manage the dump site. But of course, it behoves on all of us also to continue to shout, even though we are shouting. Now, Olusosun right now should be, it can be revived.
All right.
Yes, it can be revived. Because of the, don't forget that I told you that it plays a major role in the sustenance of effective and efficient solid waste management in Lagos State.
That's right.
Receiving over 60% of the waste generated. Now, and it is also centrally located. Because it is centrally located, because of its location, we can now revive it and turn it into a waste treatment facility. We should stop burying waste at Olusosun. The waste that are already buried, we need to go through some remediation, reticulation and all that. There are so many things that can be done.
Did I hear it's already started percolating down to the extent of polluting the water within Ikeja and environs?
Unfortunately, the pollution at Olusosun come in three folds. We have the water pollution, we have the air pollution, and then we have the soil pollution. Talking about the water pollution, the leachate, which is generated when the waste decomposes, especially organic waste.
Break your leachate down.
Leachate is leachate results when the organic waste decomposes and it has an opportunity to mix with rainwater.
Okay. Then
it generates a toxic liquid substance called leachate.
I see.
And this liquid toxic substance naturally penetrates into the underground water table. And that is why all the water aquifers within Ikeja are gone. First aquifer, second aquifer are gone. Many of the companies that are drawing their waters, that produces some soft drinks, beer and all that, you ask them, it's a free world. Where are they drawing their water? They will tell you. So that is that concerning water pollution. You talk about air pollution. You see, when the waste also decomposes, it generates all these biogases, like methane, like carbon dioxide, and etc., etc. These two major gases that I've mentioned are part of what you call the greenhouse gases. A climate change expert will tell you that they are the major cause of, the climate change in the world, whereby they can trap energy and then, it changes the climatic condition. It causes a whole lot of things. So, and that is why even the United Nations is paying, and the World Bank is paying so much heavily to ensure that if you can tap and control this, then they will pay you a certain amount of money, which is measured in by carbon. And that's why they pay you what is called carbon credit.
Okay.
Carbon credit is a free, more or less free fund available at the international level to be paid to those who will reduce the carbon generation, the carbon dioxide generation. So it is there. Of course, when the waste also, that's why sometimes people don't know. When you generate waste, you don't burn waste in an open place or whatever, which is technical terms they call waste combustion. Even if you are going to burn waste, it has to be controlled. Now, at so many of these dump sites, uncontrolled dump sites, waste are being burned
anyhow.
Unfortunately, sometimes it is not that somebody brings fire to ignite to burn the waste. Because of the free existence of methane, which is highly flammable, any activity of the people on the dump site, maybe somebody smoked or whatever and just dropped the top of the cigarette or whatever.
What Olusosun.
Because the methane gas is freely available, it just ignites. So it's not as if many people, when they pass through Olusosun, they always think that, oh, what is wrong with this government? Why are they putting fire? Nobody puts fire there. But the carbon
Chemical reactions.
it's a reaction, it's a chemical reaction.
All right. I think we will need to take a little break at this point. Quite a breather we need to take now, and then we'll be right back after this time out. Stay with us. Oh yes, welcome back. The program is still Galaxy Line, and my guest is still here seated, and still much more to talk about. The crisis, refuse crisis in Lagos, I'm not really sure where it is now, although I learned that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as your patron, you said,
Yeah.
as your patron,
Yeah.
has waded in to try to see how to balance the equation. What's the current situation?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank His Excellency, the Governor Emeritus, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who incidentally is our grand patron, for hearing us out, for receiving us, even when we went to him to say on a protest of SOS protest. He's indeed a good leader and a father and a person that has a listening ear. He intervened. And after that, we heard some few things from the government, though we are yet to be called. We expected that by now we should have had a roundtable seat discussion with the government to discuss the way forward. We read on the pages of newspapers and several televisions that the job of waste collection, which involves collection of both domestic and commercial waste.
Commercial waste.
Yeah, had been.
Is it true you are consigned to commercial waste only? Which consists only mere 20%?
Less than 20%. Initially, yes, we were
It's
confined.
probably one of the reasons you are shouting.
Yeah, because come to think of it, before the advent of bringing in VisionScape, it is the PSP operators in Lagos State that has been responsible for the collection of both the domestic, commercial waste, even the waste on the highway, even the marine waste, even the medical waste, because there are different components of waste. And it is us, the private sector, the PSP, that have been collecting all this waste. But suddenly, with the change of government, they said, no, we have to restrict you only to commercial waste, which is less than 20%. Less than it's just
of the
total job that we do. Now we have equipment that we were using to do all this job. Suddenly you want to restrict us to only less than 20%. That is.
Do you really have the equipment to do this job? Because
Doctor,
that's one of the reasons they said they want somebody who can afford the money for the equipment and all that.
I will become the anchor now. I will ask you a question, and I will be glad if you can answer.
I hope I'll be able to answer.
You should be able to answer. You and I were living in Lagos some 3, 4, 5 years, 7 years ago, before the advent of this new administration. Was Lagos that dirty like we have right now? I want to ask you. It's a simple question.
In all fairness, no.
Okay. If Lagos was not dirty, then some people were actually keeping it clean, and there was no other person that was doing it except the PSP operators. That goes a long way to tell you that we have the equipment. And like I told you earlier also, that we are even willing and ready to invest more, given an enabling environment. So if Lagos was not dirty, this dirty as it is right now, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, and all that down the line, then what gives you the impression that we don't have the equipment? So to answer the question, I know you have answered it, but just to buttress, we have the equipment and we are ready. In fact, the 100 trucks that I told you, the brand new 100 trucks that we brought in, was the first tranche of a 400 brand new trucks that we are going to bring in. We have only succeeded in bringing in the first batch of the 100. It was supposed to have been followed by another 100, until we'll have exhausted the 400. After the 400, it was a back. You were supposed to go beyond the 400.
How much is required really to deal effectively with this matter in Lagos?
Cost is relative. I can't, because the prices of equipment and all that keeps changing.
I mean, I'm talking about the number required.
The number required, well, you see, it's also relative, really. I tell you, before now, Loma's regulation was if you to handle a ward, you need at least 2 compactors to handle a ward. I mean, a ward, a political ward, which is the basis of sharing the job to PSP operators. But in most cases, why it was said that it must be 2 is that sometimes even 1 will service it, but you must have at least a backup in case of any, because these are huge equipment. Sometimes they have a breakdown and it takes like 1 day, 2 days or thereabout. Even ordinary tire changing, when you have a flat tire, it will surprise you to know that sometimes it takes 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours to do a tire change. So that's why for a political ward you may have 2. But if you have 2 political wards, you may have 3. So that's why it's relative. But I can assure you, we have more than enough trucks. But as these trucks were aging also, there is also a replacement plan that was supposed to be replacing them. But I can tell you in the last over 2 years or thereabouts, since 2016, when this brouhaha started, nobody is thinking of a replacement plan because you are not even sure whether you are going to keep your job. And that is the danger that incursion brought into the industry.
Okay, what was Asiwaju's mediation terms? What were the terms of agreement, or was there no agreement really? Or did we hear that he mandated government to step down, kick who needs to be kicked out, and then let you come in fully?
No.
Anything like that?
No, what happened, Asiwaju's position was without ambiguity. What he told us was that he appealed to us to remain calm and to go and prepare to return back to our job. That he's actually going to have a meeting with His Excellency Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, and to let him know that if it wasn't broken, why fix it? To let him know that we are doing a good job and that we are his creation. In fact, we are one of his legacy. So it was not like an imposition. Don't forget that the governor is the governor. Asiwaju is the leader. But Asiwaju happens to be one of the so many advisors. Even the governor himself empaneled or instituted a council of elders, advisory committee that were advising him. And I think
over this matter?
Not over general governance of the state. And I think it is in that vein that Asiwaju was trying to intervene, not to impose or to kick anybody out. And that was how, after his intervention, the government, through the commissioner and through some publication, we have not been told because it's full of ambiguity, they came up with a clear-cut demarcation of a new job. And the new job specification says that PSPs are to go back to their traditional job, which is collection and transportation of both domestic and commercial waste and all the other waste, all sundry waste. While the vision scale should now be restricted.
The new managers.
I call them the new managers. The people brought in should now handle provision of infrastructure, which is exactly what we were telling the government have been issued. That even if you want to bring in a foreign direct investment, why don't you let us tailor it to the infrastructure development? Because we don't have a problem with collection, but we had some challenges with infrastructure. So Visionscape can now go and build a sanitary landfill site, build more transfer loading station, build the material recovery facility, in fact, build recycling facilities, which is where we are having challenges.
Or even establish a truck production factory.
Well, is
that not possible?
If it's possible, already we have some.
Of all the importation.
We have some truck manufacturing companies in Nigeria. The company that supplied us the first tranche of the 100 had already established a factory in Nigeria, based on the kind of rapport that we have with them. Now we are now importing all these trucks from abroad. That is the redundancy for a Nigerian company here. Apart from that, we are bringing in the waste bin. We are even bringing in the waste bags. And I call these waste bags low-hanging fruits. Before now, Loma itself has a facility where the waste bags are being produced. And so many local investors also invested in the production of the waste bags. Now we are jettisoning all these things. And now we are bringing in waste bags from UK. I mean, to me, it looks illogical. But we have a listening governor, we believe. And all this thing is being reversed now. All that we are looking out for is for a time which we believe will be soon for them to call us so that we can discuss the nitty-gritty of how we can move forward. Indeed, we are happy that they reversed the initial position. And we want to thank His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Akinwumi Ambode. He is also a listening governor, because one thing is for some pressures or advice to come from a particular quarters, another is for him also to adhere to it. You know, so that goes a long way to show that he's indeed also a listening governor. However, we need to develop more, because some of these things that they put out in the newspapers and on the TV and radio are full of ambiguities. And as such, we want to sit down. We are looking forward to sitting down, you know, with the officials, so that we can trash all these areas, and then we'll be able to move forward. But one thing that is so clear right now, which we're happy about, is that we as a PSP operators really have nothing to do with Visionscape again, because initially they were trying to force us to sign a subcontracting agreement with Visionscape, and we said this is absurd. We have been doing our job without being a subcontractor to any. You brought somebody, we thought they are coming with their equipment. The equipment were nowhere to be found. It is this same our equipment that they said were rickety, that they said were not enough, that they were actually renting, and Visionscape was also using. And they wanted to more or less bind our hand to sign a subcontracting agreement with Visionscape, which we call second slavery. What stops us? I don't mince words when I talk to them, that many of these so-called foreign companies that they bring into the country also started even worse than we started. And I'm not talking about Visionscape. I don't know their incident, but I know so many big international waste management companies, which I don't want to mention, that started worse than we did. Some of them started even using cats, and they were using horses to draw those cats. But they were able to develop over the years with the support of their home government. They were able to capture their own markets, their own countries or cities, and then they develop into international companies. What stops our government from backing the PSP operators whom you look as a nobody or whatever? Back them up, pep them up, clean them. It's like you married a wife and your wife is not up to your standard. Are you going to throw the wife away? You bring that wife up to your own standard. It's not that you now throw away your wife or get your son and get another one. That's
all right. If you want to hazard a guess when we're going to come out of all this mess, what time can you put to it? In another month?
My dear brother,
tomorrow?
I want to speak, and I'm speaking on behalf of all the PSP operators in Lagos State. We are ever ready. Indeed, we're ever ready to go back and ensure that Lagos is restored back to the path of honor. We are also not happy seeing the work that we have done in cleaning Lagos State gone down the drain. So we are not happy. So we are ever ready to go back and clean Lagos and make it workable again and make it receive all those awards that it has received. We are ready. However, Doctor,
okay,
this is not our own, within our own purview. We are to work. It takes two to tango. It's a collective responsibility. We are ready. I can pledge that we are ready to do what it takes on our own path. However, we are also looking forward to seeing government to doing their own part, because it is to have an effective and efficient solid waste management system in Lagos State. It is indeed a collective responsibility, and every identified stakeholder must be seen doing their part. And I can assure you, I speak for the operators, we are ready, we have been meeting. Even as you told us, go and be prepared in your various, and we are prepared. However, there are some things that we need to dot the I's and cross the T's. And the government knows this.
But if you are that prepared, why must you withdraw your services and allow the debts to pile?
Good question, Dr. Aderi. PSP never withdrew their services. And that may surprise you. We as PSP operators, till today, even as I speak with you, our vehicles, you see them, they are always on the road. But the only problem we have is that their level of activities have actually reduced.
Why?
Why? Because, unfortunately, maybe it's a miscalculation. When government came up with this new initiative of Cleaner Lagos and the Vision Scheme, they started putting the waste bins, all those 100 and 101,
yeah,
we call them
101,
1001 liters bins. They started putting them all over.
That's right.
And when they do this, they have directly or indirectly told the residents to stop patronizing the PSP operators, that they should go and, in fact, they were announcing that people should go and be putting their waste in those waste bins, that they have capacity to remove them. Hitherto, PSPs were going from house to house, service the tenement, and tenement were paying. But you know, a typical Nigerian or the typical African, they don't want to pay for services, even electricity and water rates. So once they see something that looks like free, they stop patronizing the PSP operators. So majority were taking their waste to those waste bins. Unfortunately, they do not have the capacity to even to evacuate those waste bins. And that was what they call sabotage, because the waste bins are filled up and nobody was picking them. It got to a state they started begging us, and I'm sorry to use the word begging. They started pursuing us that we should. And some of our members were even helping them to remove all those waste bins. But because the efficiency, the rate at which those waste bins are being evacuated was not that sufficient. That was why you keep on having heaps and heaps of waste. But our people are still going from house to house, servicing those, in spite of all the whatever that is happening, who have stuck to the PSP to say, look, hey, I don't care whatever that is happening, keep on coming to pick up my waste and I will continue to pay you. But because majority do not want to pay, they have resorted not to give their waste to the PSP.
Let me ask you something about this payment of a thing. All of a sudden, you find that PSP people begin to bring arbitrary increases, you know, in the per month charges that you collect. And even the charges are not uniform. It varies from place to place and all that. What explanation do you have for this?
Okay, it's a globally in waste management, and I want to situate it, you know, within the global content. There's what we call cross subsidy in waste management, in cost recovery. Now, I told you about peculiarities of areas. What somebody that lives in Ajambadi, for instance, will pay in his flat will be different from what somebody who lives in VI Ikoyi will pay per flat.
Why? How?
Naturally, the amount that is being charged by a PSP operator is regulated by government, then by LOMA. That was our principle. And this thing is prorated, or it has, I mean, the charges are based on the areas and taking into consideration what you call the social stratification, the social strata, the low income earners, which is the high density. We have also the low density, high income earners, the middle income and all that and all that. So it's graduated. For instance, in the low income earners, they pay as low as between 150 and 200 naira per month in a room. And a flat in such an area pays between 500 and 750 per month. Whereas if you graduate to a middle income area, they may be paying as much as 500 per room, and then a flat is 1,000 naira. If you also graduate to a high income whatever, then they may be paying as much as per flat. There are no room by room there. They pay as much as 2,500 to 3,000 naira per flat. Because this is based on waste itself is science, and it's social science. It's economics. All waste is just a multidisciplinary discipline. So you take all this into cognizance before you arrive at an amount. And I want to assure you that there was no arbitrary, if there are issues with the bill, that's why in all the bills that is being circulated by PSP operators, there are phone numbers that are hotline, 24 hours you can call, and then somebody will pick it up and tell you what you can seek clarification.
There's one other thing I wanted to clarify from you too. All of a sudden, I think shortly after there were signals from government that you should withdraw, that there's a new manager in place.
Yeah.
We now found out that it affected my area. For instance, a lot of people came to complain to me to say that all of a sudden you begin to bill people in advance instead of what you used to do. Once a month is over, you collect and then you put the money, bill there for people to pay. But now you bill people in advance.
Let me
June is yet to come.
Yeah.
You bring a bill for people to pay for June.
Yes.
Why did you decide to do that?
You see, it's a functionality of business model, which ordinarily will change as the trend itself is also changing. One, we are used to distributing, PSP are used to distributing bills every 2 months.
Yes.
After service.
After service.
After service.
That's what was done.
But in some areas, some people adopted the model of after serving you for 1 month, by the end of that month, at the beginning of another month, they just serve you the bill for 2 months. So that and they expect you to pay that money by the end of that month, because there's always a due date for the payment if you check it very well. But, and thank you for noting that, these are things that people do not note. Suddenly government said their contract with us has ended. In fact, we do not have any contract with them and all that, and more or less encouraging people to stop paying. So, and there were people who were serviced. If I tell you how much money is out there in terms of debt, it will shock you, sir. So we have a huge debt out there.
What's the conservative estimate?
Oh, I don't want to mention it on this thing. It's going to. But we are discussing this with government because they are the one that discourage people from paying. But it's huge. It's in billions collectively. Now, people are no longer paying, and they want you to be servicing them. In fact, government was saying go and service and all that and all that. So many of our members have to adopt a system whereby, if you want me to service you, I'm sure I will service you, but pay me in advance instead of servicing you and then you are not paying. You understand? So if you pay, it's like we will have a list of, it's like NEPA or electricity. These days, even phones, we pay them in advance before they give us service. You have to recharge your phone before they service you, before you can make a call. You have to pay PHCN, whichever one is electricity, whatever provider, before they give you. That's the prepaid whatever. So for waste, because we have a huge debt out there and a whole lot of uncertainty within the industry, then some of our members have to put on a whole lot of ingenuity or whatever to say, hey, I'm going to service you, but you need to pay me in advance so that I will be sure that when I service you, you don't go away with my fund. So that's just explain that it's not out of this world.
Okay, let us not end this interview without talking about those that they refer to as scavengers. A lot of people are employed by you, and then not really employed by you now. I'm talking of scavengers, those who go into the dump sites and begin to pick things here and there.
Yes.
Then those who actually work for you, PSP operators, it is said that you care less about their health conditions. What's your reaction to this?
Well, that's what people, you see, people are not in this industry. And sometimes they just go and formulate some notions without asking questions.
That's why
you are asking questions now, and I'm going to answer you rather. Now, all of our, especially with their new, whatever, the new regime of the Cleaner Lagos initiative, all the staff that we have, even before then, we have medical plans for them. Most of us register at the local hospitals. I do in my own area, and I know a lot of PSPs they do this, whereby once you have, because they are prone to injury, they are prone to one thing or the other. So once they have sustained an injury, in fact, globally, I have a report that says that it is the waste workers that are prone, more prone, that they are the fifth, how do I put it now, a group that is prone to frequent injury. That's a global research. So we know this very well. And many of us actually register most of our staff to go to some local
Not only
hospitals.
to injuries, but to diseases.
To diseases, yes, to diseases and all that. So we do care about them and all that. Now with this new regulation and all that, all our staff are now being insured. We have insurance cover for all of them.
Right now.
I'm telling you, if you want me to show you insurance cover for my staff, I will show you. Ditto for all the PSP operators in Lagos State.
That's nice.
So we have insurance cover, we register them in hospitals, and all. People just go out and, you see, because sometimes, yes, we know that some of the people that work for us, they are the worst in the pack. You know, some of the different languages and all that. Even sometimes you ask them to adhere to the simplest health and safety measures. They will not. Some, you give them gloves. They say, oh God, this one, I know if you work with this one, you know, this and that. And then they feel, you know the way it is. So sometimes you give them uniform. By the time you go and check them on the field, you see that even the uniform is not on them. Right? So, but all that is now being regulated because we provide regular training for our staff. And I want to quickly correct an impression. The people you call scavengers are no longer scavengers. I don't call them scavengers. They are resource recoverers. In fact, globally, there's a new name for them, waste pickers. They are recovering resources from the waste. And so they are not, scavenging is derogatory.
So they are not to be derogated anymore.
No, because it's a global industry.
Okay. All right.
A multi-billion-dollar industry within the waste pickers. You won't believe it.
I guess at this point we will have to stop.
Before we stop, I want to implore our members, the generality of the people, let them pay for the waste. Waste payment.
You are ready to go into action.
We are ready.
Good. On that positive note, we're going to wrap it up on this show today. Let me thank my guest so much, Mr. Adebola.
It's a pleasure.
Benga Adebola.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much indeed. I really enjoyed every moment of the show.
Thank you very much.
And I think you did with all the information supplied here. That is to tell you that is a man that knows his onions. I'll be back next week by the grace of God with another guest, another personality on this show. Until then, I'm saying bye-bye now and happy weekend.
The state of the nation's economy leaves much to be desired. Nigerians grapple with one sort of issue to the other on a daily basis. Sometimes